Here's something nobody tells you. The person sitting alone at the coffee shop, earbuds in, completely absorbed in their own world, might actually be happier than the group of 10 laughing at the next table. Sounds backwards, right? We've been taught our whole lives that popularity equals success, that a packed social calendar means you're winning at life. But what if I told you that recent psychology research is turning this belief completely upside down? What if the people with the smallest social circles possess personality traits that most of us are desperately trying to develop? In 2024, researchers studying solitude made a discovery that challenges everything we thought we knew about loneliness and connection. And it starts with understanding a distinction most people miss entirely. Let's start with a trait that separates true contentment from just coping: the ability to sit with your own thoughts. People who naturally have fewer friends don't avoid introspection. They dive into it. Research shows that introverts have higher blood flow to their frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for memory, problem-solving, and planning. Their brains are literally wired differently. But here, fascinating. While most people brains light up with dopamine when surrounded by others, these individuals experience their reward response from internal reflection instead. A Harvard Business Review study found that professionals who regularly practice self-reflection separate themselves from mediocre performers. They're not just thinking about their day. They're analyzing patterns, questioning assumptions, dismantling their own biases. This isn't navel-gazing. It's a cognitive workout that builds mental muscle. Here's where it gets interesting. Self-reflection through journaling was shown in a study of 690 students to lead to measurable improvements in learning and self-awareness, not just better test scores. Better understanding of how they learn, what triggers them, where their blind spots hide. Think about it. When you're constantly surrounded by others, when do you actually process your experiences? When do you figure out what you actually believe versus what everyone around you believes? People with fewer friends have answered this question. They've carved out space for what researchers call thinking introversion, a tendency to engage in deep, reflective thought and enjoy being immersed in one's inner world. But reflection alone isn't enough, because here's what most people get wrong. They think less social time automatically leads to loneliness. The research shows something completely different. It all comes down to one word that changes everything about how we understand solitude. Choice. That's the word. And it's the difference between isolation and power. A groundbreaking 2024 study published in Nature examined over 178 people across 21 days, tracking their solitude patterns. The findings were shocking. Spending time alone was only linked to loneliness and dissatisfaction when that solitude was forced. When it was chosen, the negative effects vanished completely. Think about what this means. It's not about being alone. It's about wanting to be alone. Research from Oregon State University flipped conventional wisdom on its head when they surveyed nearly 900 adults. They found that activities providing less complete forms of solitude, reading in a cafe, listening to music while commuting, offered restorative benefits without the downsides of extreme isolation. People with few friends have mastered this balance. They understand something crucial. Solitude isn't about completely cutting off from the world. It's about controlling your exposure to it. Here's the psychological mechanism. When solitude is autonomous and chosen, it becomes a tool for what researchers call effective self-regulation. It's like hitting a reset button on your emotional state. One laboratory study found that just 10 minutes of chosen solitude increased low arousal positive emotions like relaxation and calm. Even when participants weren't doing any directed activities, people who naturally gravitate towards smaller social circles aren't running away from connection. They're running toward restoration. They've figured out that their nervous system isn't designed for constant stimulation. And instead of fighting that reality, they've built their entire life around honoring it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but don't we need other people? Isn't connection essential for happiness? Absolutely. Which brings us to the third trait, and this is where things get really interesting. Because people with fewer friends don't avoid relationships. They've just redefined what a real relationship actually is. A systematic review of 38 research studies between 2000 and 2019 revealed something critical. It's not the number of friends that predicts well-being. It's friendship quality. And more specifically, two factors dominate: intimacy and commitment. People with small social circles have figured this out intuitively. Research shows they prioritize what psychologist Robert Sternberg identified as the core components of genuine friendship: deep trust, authentic self-disclosure, and mutual investment over time. They're not collecting acquaintances. They're cultivating connections that actually matter. Here's what this looks like in practice. While someone with 100 social media friends is spreading their energy thin across surface-level interactions, someone with 3 close friends is building relationships where both people feel truly known. Studies on adolescent friendships found that high-quality friendships led to the highest levels of self-worth, the best behavioral conduct, and the lowest levels of problem behaviors. The research is clear. Authentic communication builds trust and mutual support, which are essential for sustaining meaningful friendship. People with fewer friends engage in what researchers call effortful communication. They're not just texting memes back and forth. They're having conversations that require vulnerability, active listening, and genuine presence. A fascinating study found that introverts in group activities actually listen better to suggestions and are less attached to their own ideas than extroverts. They work together to co-construct solutions. Their social interactions might be less frequent, but they're exponentially deeper. But there's a shadow side to this trait. Because when you invest deeply in just a few relationships, the stakes become higher. Conflicts hit harder. Distance hurts more. Which is exactly why the 4th trait matters so much. People with few friends don't outsource their sense of self. Self-sufficiency research reveals something profound. It's a quality of feeling secure and content with oneself. A deep-rooted sense of inner completeness. It's not about never needing anyone. It's about not needing constant validation from everyone. Research shows that self-sufficient people have a strong internal locus of control. They have the ability and desire to determine their own course and make their own decisions rather than having their life choices made by others. They trust their instincts and are prepared to go their own way, even if it means going against expectations. This manifests in surprising ways. Studies indicate that people who practice self-support techniques are better equipped to overcome adversity and bounce back from setbacks. Self-support strategies, like positive self-talk and cognitive restructuring, enhance resilience and foster adaptive coping mechanisms. By cultivating self-reliance and self-efficacy, these individuals navigate difficult circumstances and emerge stronger. Here's the key distinction. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean emotional isolation. Research from adolescent development shows that young people who maintained close relationships with some dependency actually showed greater independence in adulthood than those who tried to be completely self-reliant. The difference? They sought support strategically, not desperately. People with few friends have mastered this balance. They can sit with discomfort. They can problem-solve independently. They don't need external approval to feel worthwhile. But when they do reach out, it's from a place of strength, not neediness. This is what psychologists call secure autonomy, and it's one of the strongest predictors of adult well-being. Which brings us to the 5th and perhaps most misunderstood trait: authenticity. Not the buzzword kind you see on Instagram. The uncomfortable, sometimes lonely kind that costs something. Research shows that self-sufficient people are authentic. They tend not to play roles or be misleading just to please. Their inner stability means it's not as important to gain affirmation or respect from others, so they're prepared to risk being disliked by speaking truthfully. Think about what this requires. In a world optimized for performance, for curating the perfect image, for saying what people want to hear, choosing authenticity is radical. It means you'll say no when everyone expects yes. It means you'll skip events that drain you, even when that disappoints others. It means being yourself, even when yourself isn't particularly popular. A study examining personality and choice meaningfulness found that self-reflection augmented social identification, but only when participants felt their choices were personally meaningful. Translation: these individuals aren't just being different for the sake of it. They're making choices aligned with their actual values, even when those choices lead to smaller social circles. Research on authentic relationships reveals that people who communicate from genuine self-awareness build deeper trust and connection than those who perform a version of themselves designed to maximize approval. The irony: by not trying to please everyone, they end up building the few relationships that actually matter. Here's what nobody tells you. Authenticity is often lonely at first. When you stop performing, some people leave. When you set boundaries, some people get angry. When you choose depth over breadth, your calendar empties out. But what fills it back up isn't just better, it's real. So here as the truth that social media tell you. The number of friends you have says nothing about your worth, your happiness, or your success. Research across multiple disciplines consistently shows that people with fewer friends often possess heightened self-awareness, deeper capacity for reflection, stronger boundaries, and more authentic relationships. They've mastered autonomous solitude. They've prioritized quality over quantity. They've developed an internal locus of control that doesn't require constant external validation. And they've chosen authenticity even when it costs them popularity. This doesn't mean everyone should aim for a tiny social circle. People genuinely thrive in large groups and extensive networks. The point isn't that one approach is universally better. The point is that having few friends isn't a deficit that needs fixing. For many people, it's a reflection of traits that our culture desperately needs more of: depth, authenticity, self-sufficiency, and the courage to choose meaning over approval. The person sitting alone at the coffee shop, they might not be lonely. They might just be doing what most of us are too afraid to try, being completely comfortable with themselves.